Putting on my top hat, tying up my white tie, brushing up my tail.
Welcome to Hatcast,
the podcast about hats.
I'm Charles Berman.
And I'm Carl Bernhardson.
And why are we here, audience?
To talk about hats is
That's what I hope you were saying.
That's what they would say if they... Well, they can speak, but we can't hear them.
Probably most of them can. We might have some people that are tongue amputation survivors or something like that out there. But majority of people out there can speak, and I hope said aloud to themselves
to talk about
hats. I hope you said it on the subway, perhaps, and that the other people sitting around you said, "Why is that person strangely exclaiming about talking about hats?" And that you then paused our voices, welcome back, and said, "Well, I'm listening to a wonderful podcast called Hatcast, a podcast about hats."
I can imagine this happening.
Certainly, if I just described it in such detail, you couldn't imagine it.
I would have a very weak imagination.
Yes.
I have a hard time imagining things unless I'm actually seeing or experiencing them happening.
Picture a metal conveyance with people in it traveling, that sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
You were telling me about a book that described things that way.
Yes. A Maggot by John Fowles.
Okay.
It's one of the most unusual narrative voices I've ever read.
I'll have to write that down because when you described it to me, it sounded very, very intriguing.
I don't think I have my copy anymore. Otherwise, I would lend it to you.
That's okay. I have the internet and libraries, so
yes.
I should be able to find it.
Yeah, and anyone out there who likes books with very unusual narrative voices,
that's one
give
to
it
consider.
A try. Yeah. Well, today we always talk, or we don't always, but we often talk about the hats we wore today.
Yes.
And I wore one that I think I've worn already, which is the leather flat cap. Have I worn that already?
We started doing this in February. You must have worn it. I've seen you wear it. If you haven't worn it on a Hat We Wore Today portion of Hatcast, you've definitely worn it at some point in the last 11 months.
Right. I meant on the program.
Right.
It's fairly. I think I described it actually on the flat cap episode. It's a flat cap that is dark brown, sewn out of several panels of leather.
I like it very much. I have a flat cap that is black, that is sewn out of leather, and I've always enjoyed that. I think we talked about that.
We did, yeah.
When we did the flat cap episode.
Yeah.
I said how I wear it and sometimes feel like 1930s London thief.
Yes. Yeah. There is an element to this hat that makes you feel a bit like a criminal.
Yes.
But not enough not to wear it, and it's comfortable and it's very warm.
Right, and certainly not enough as to inspire crime.
Yeah.
I've never put the hat on and then actually gone out and been criminal.
No, I haven't either, except perhaps in very petty ways. I may have jaywalked in this hat, I have to admit, but it's not in a fashion that I think is a deep shame.
No.
But it's about 40 degrees Fahrenheit today, I think, right?
Yes, we have finally hit fall, and I couldn't be happier. I can wear all of my clothes and hats and boots and scarves.
Not all at once.
Right.
We only have 2 feet at a time. But
right, but yeah. I have a whole section of my wardrobe that I actually just finished today. I had the day off today, so I took the morning to do laundry and clean up all of my fall and winter clothes
a worthy
to have
endeavor.
them ready. Yes.
Yeah.
But as far as the hat that I wore today,
uh-huh.
It is a new hat for me. It is in the style of a baseball cap. It's a dark green, and it has the word Binghamton embroidered on the front of it. I bought this over the weekend. A few friends of mine from college were in town for our university's homecoming.
Yeah.
I still live in the town where I went to college. And
so it wasn't a very far homecoming.
For me, no. I was already home.
Yeah.
But we went to see the homecoming soccer game. And I thought to myself, I don't own a single piece of apparel branded with the name of my college. So I bought this hat that says Binghamton because I have a podcast about hats, and I should, if I'm going to get one piece of branded apparel, get a hat.
Yeah, now I have to say, and this is not me tilting towards saying that we should become tie cast or anything. The tie is not yet cast. But when When I arrived at college, I bought what I think is still the only piece of branded apparel that I have, which is the school tie.
Oh.
Just because I thought it was right and proper that we should do this.
I had wanted to buy a school tie, but when I went to the bookstore to buy one at some point early in my college career, I didn't find one.
Oh.
Yeah, they were out. They had the spot where they were, but then
they were sold out. Maybe I bought the one that you would have bought.
Maybe you did, and I never tried again. I should go now because the farther and farther away I get from having been in college, the more and more nostalgic I get.
Well, you should go now, and I'll tell you why. Well, not to tell you what to spend your money on, but when I went in that time to get it, which is more than 10 years ago now,
yeah,
I went and I bought the school tie that they had, which I must admit is, you could describe it as ugly. It has very broad white and green stripes. And at the bottom, above where the point of the tie is an embroidered patch of a picture of the school mascot.
The Bearcat.
Yes, and the letters BU. As
far as school ties go, this sounds pretty unappealing. There's a whole subgenre of ties, which are school ties.
Oh yeah,
which are, a variety of stripes or checks or dots, usually stripes that indicate what school you're in, kind of in the style of regimental ties. But yeah, that one does not sound very classic looking and kind of hard to wear in a formal setting, which is where you would wear a tie.
I mean, you could wear a tie just because you're a tie liker in other settings, but really, if you're the sort of person that really wants to wear this kind of tie, you probably only wear ties in a school setting.
Right.
So it really wasn't a very good one. Nowadays, and I went in there and didn't buy one because I don't know why. They have ones that are much more tasteful.
Okay.
That are just the dark green with a thin white stripe.
Oh, see, that's nice.
And it might have a little emblem in there somewhere, but it looks like a regular tie. And it comes in both four-in-hand and bow varieties.
Oh, and you do like bow ties.
I do. I don't know if you like bow ties.
I wear bow ties very infrequently. I do like them, but I've actually never thought that they look great on me. And especially now that my beard is getting longer.
It might be hidden by the beard.
They can hide it, and then you just sort of look like you've buttoned your shirt up to the top, and that's not always ideal.
I did have one semester in England at the Sussex University, and their school tie I also bought, and it's much better looking. I don't know if I can find what it looks like, but it is preferable.
Yeah.
So we have some Hatcast. First of all, before we get to anything like the subject of the program.
Oh, actually, well, before we even get to that, I wanted to finish describing my hat. We sort of got onto a tangent. Yeah, so it's a nice green color, and it says only the word Binghamton. And the reason why I picked this one in particular, there were ones that said Binghamton University or had the date the school was founded, that kind of thing. I decided not to go with those and picked the one that just says Binghamton because I can wear it to any Binghamton event around town. I like our local baseball teams, both the college baseball team and the minor league professional team. I like going to our hockey games. I went to a soccer game for the first time, and that was fun. And now I have a hat that I can wear and show to the rest of the crowd that I'm on the side of the home team.
Of the Binghamtonians.
Yeah. So I'm very, very happy to have it. And it's very stark and Binghamton.
Yeah.
It's a long word to put on a hat.
But it's clear.
But there it is.
It's basic, but in a good way. I might get a similar thing. I don't know if I would get one that said the university. I mean, I sort of disqualified myself from being a total abstainer in university apparel the first day getting that tie, but then I didn't get anything else. They do tend to cost a lot more than they're worth. But
it's I was worried when I went into the store that this was going to cost me a ridiculous amount of money. It cost me more than I would typically pay for a baseball cap, but it was not that bad.
All right, that's fair. I already have a hat for the baseball team.
Right.
Although it's for the old version of the baseball team. And actually, I have one for the old version of the hockey team, which has also changed its name. So maybe I will catch up to them. And
Right,
maybe
just-
I'll just one that gets says Binghamton.
Just a generic
Yeah.
hat with your town's name on it is all you need.
Now, some news.
Oh, yes.
I have good elements of news and bad elements of this. Now, I listened to another podcast where they instituted a policy where you could leave them audio messages on Skype.
Oh.
And your voice could appear on the podcast via Skype.
We should do that.
Yeah, so I thought, well, what they did was they created a Skype account with the name of their podcast, and you could just leave a message on Skype with them. Since they did that, Skype has removed the capability whereby you can create your own Skype
Oh,
username.
no.
Their idea is that you just search for the email address and you find the user for which they have given a username, which is a little bit less nice.
Yes.
So we have a cut rate version of this, but if you would like to leave us an audio...
Wait, I'm going to guess and tell me if I'm right. Is this somehow a state-sponsored Russian government website?
Oh, no.
okay.
It's Skype. We're using
Oh, it's Skype. Oh, we're
yeah.
using Skype still. Okay. never mind.
What I'm saying is we're using Skype, but we don't have a customized username.
Oh, okay.
You can just you search for our email address, hatcast@yandex.com.
Right. Yandex being a Russian email server.
Well, yes, but it's not state
Not
sponsored.
space-sponsored.
It's run by the Yandex Corporation.
Right.
But hatcast@yandex.com and find our Skype and you can leave us an audio message.
Please do that. That would be fun. Then we can incorporate... It'll be a little bit more editing, but I don't do the editing, so great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's go to correspondence.
Yes. Who did we hear from?
Well, let's see. We heard from more than one person this week.
More than one as in 5 or 2?
Two.
2, okay.
Your guess was was one of the 2 possibilities that you said. So we heard back from Mark Konczynski, and he said, Charles, thank you both for answering my question on the podcast. I had the opportunity to listen to it last night. Excellent. You might consider adding a Facebook group in addition to the www.facebook.com/hatcast page that already exists. A group would allow enthusiasts to chat about hats on FB, which most people are on daily, versus joining another forum, like www.thefedoralounge.com or www.styleforum.net, neither of which I'm a member of at this point. Mark Konczynski.
That is an interesting idea. If we could get people talking about hats, 1, it would help us come up with ideas, and 2, it would give people the chance to interact with us more.
I see. So I think what he's suggesting, and Mark, when you listen to this, correct me if I'm wrong. Carl, while you listen to this sitting next to me, correct me if you think I'm wrong, is we already have a page called, and we haven't even mentioned this on the website before.
Oh, yes, that's true.
on the podcast before,
yeah. We may one day get better at promoting this.
Well, yeah. Well, don't you think modesty in a podcast is a virtue?
If it is, we are very virtuous.
We have a modest little podcast. No, we did create a page on the website Facebook, which is Hatcast. And I think he's saying that not to tear that down or to modify it in some way,
but to add alongside a discussion group. And I think this is a function of Facebook.
Right. But I think what he means is not just the discussion group for the podcast, but to make a club of some kind on Facebook called Hat Wearers.
Oh, and this would further the cause of people talking about hats, which is what we do.
So perhaps we should do that, because he's saying that would be an alternative to the Fedora Lounge and Style Forum.
Right. And sort of an extra... yet another place
where people could talk about hats,
but this time on Facebook.
Most people are more likely on a given day to go to Facebook than the Fedora Lounge or Style Forum.
Right. And I think that's a very good point.
Yeah,
we will do research into that, and I'm sure we'll correspond privately
not a bad idea,
with you about that for more information.
Yeah, so I think we should think about that.
Yes, thank you, Mark.
We also have a message from Scott Leslie, who writes us, "Good day, gentlemen. My lovely wife, Lynn, and I began watching the critically acclaimed Amazon series, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel."
Maisel.
Oh.
I've seen it.
You see, I haven't, so
I liked it. And here's an interesting point. They filmed part of the upcoming season in the town where we record podcasts.
Oh, is that so?
Hatcast, the podcast about hats.
I entirely missed that bit of news.
Yeah.
Is it good?
I like it.
Yeah.
I do.
Well, according to Scott, it's critically acclaimed as well. So,
see, I agree with some critics.
Yeah. One of the things I love most about this clever and funny series, set in the late 1950s, is the gorgeous wardrobes, including, of course, hats. Shows such as Mad Men often displayed the beautiful headdresses of the era. In movies, it's near impossible to imagine Bogey without his trademark fedora, or Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones without his. On TV, Walter Breaking Bad White's pork pie became a cultural phenom. And how dashing is James Spader on The Blacklist, decked out in his fedora. Enclosed, please find a photograph of yours truly in my chocolate Hamburg, along with the fabulous Lynn. Please keep the podcasts coming. The confirmed #1 fan of Hatcast, the #1 hat-related podcast, Scott R. the Mailman Leslie. Well, thank you. We're always glad to get a letter from a #1 fan. Let's scroll up and look at the picture.
And what a hat.
Oh, yes.
We do need to do that.
Fabulous picture.
The Hamburg is on the short list of episodes to come very soon.
Yeah, so Scott and Lynn look great in this picture. Thank you for this picture. And this hat is complemented also by a great scarf.
Yes.
Yeah. And it looks like an excellent Hamburg.
Yes.
I sort of envy that hat.
I do. I have long hoped to buy a Hamburg for myself, and this is encouraging me to do so in a relatively short amount of time. Yeah, this is nice.
You know how else you can tell from this picture that Scott likes hats?
There's a shelf to his right covered in hats.
Yes. One of which is a CSI Las Vegas hat, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And also the fact that he emailed it to a hat podcast.
Yes, that I think is probably the biggest piece of evidence.
Way, but this is in many ways a great picture. Yeah. So I don't know, Scott, if it's all right with you, and if there are other listeners, maybe at some point we'll start sharing our hat photos that we get to the Hatcast online. But I don't know if that would be all right with our listeners. So
yeah, we'll figure that out
before we do that. There are some great hat pictures.
I have increasingly felt that the discussion of hats is more suited to a visual medium, and it sort of started as a.
I don't think that means we should stop the podcast.
No. But I think that if we had a website, or if we used our Facebook page more efficiently, we could put up the pictures of hats that we were talking about, or hats that people have talked to us about.
Right. Oh, and hat sightings this week.
Oh, what did you see?
This isn't even a hat sighting, but I went to a new restaurant, a Haitian restaurant.
Oh, in our town?
In the town over, in Endicott.
Okay.
And it was delicious, for those of you listening locally. It's called Sycamore. I don't think they'll mind me saying it was great.
No, probably not. I'm sure they're listening.
They're probably not, but even if they are, I don't think they'll mind the reference to them as being good and you should eat there. But they had a mural on the wall, which at the time was unfinished, but at the moment we went to eat in the restaurant, featured a landscape and a floating hat.
I like that.
Yeah.
Did you get a picture?
I did, yeah.
Okay, good. We should put that on the Facebook page.
I think we will, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about the hat of the day.
Yes, well, we've spent a lot of time on correspondence. This is nice. We're going to have to figure out how to balance these things because we're getting more correspondence and listener interaction,
which is a good thing. If we start getting letters which are insulting in some manner or something, we may not want to.
I don't think we'll read those
as much time.
I think we'll leave those alone.
Don't send us those. Yeah. But so the hat of the day. This comes with a story. I went to a wedding on Saturday, and it was a Jewish wedding, and not the wedding itself. It was of two Jewish people, so conducted in the Jewish manner. And when you go into the Jewish wedding, if you are a man, you are supposed to put on your head a yarmulke. And so we went in and they had a basket of these things. which they were giving away for free. And I've been to, this is the first Jewish wedding I'd been to, but I also had been to a Jewish bar mitzvah before. And when you get, and actually, sadly, a funeral, but when you go to such things where they give you a yarmulke, there's sometimes souvenirs. So this one says inside the name of the bride and groom and the date.
Oh, that's very
printed
nice.
inside of it as a souvenir of the wedding. Well, yeah, it is very nice. And although when we went in, we noticed not everyone was remembering to take them. So it was a little bit inconsistent whether you had them. And we'll describe what it is. It's sometimes called a skull cap.
Right.
Because it's sort of a very small 4-paneled red item that goes on the top of your head.
Right.
And you might not even consider this fully a hat.
I would consider it a hat. Yeah.
Yeah. But I have seen some people wearing them and then putting a fedora, for instance, over it when they go outside.
Right. I think that there's nothing wrong with wearing a hat over a hat.
No, there's not. Yeah.
Right. It doesn't disqualify it from being a type of hat.
Yeah.
So.
Have you ever had to wear one of these?
I have, yes. We talked a lot about college earlier in this episode, and I did end up going to a number of events sponsored by various Jewish groups on campus.
Oh, that's right. There was one when we went to college that gave away free dinner.
Yes, that is the one that I would go to. And
did we have to wear a yarmulke to that?
It was encouraged, and they were giving me free food, so I sure wore the yarmulke.
Did you go out and say, I'd like to buy a yarmulke somehow? Or?
No, they handed me one.
All right.
They had ones in a little bin for people like me.
Uh-huh. Oh, you see, I remember getting those free dinners because those dinners had a couple of advantages. One, they were free, and two, they were pretty good.
They were actually very good. It was the highlight of my culinary week in college. And I was typically invited to go by friends who were going for more legitimate religious purposes.
Oh, well, that's good. Yeah.
I wasn't going as a complete food freeloader, but...
Right. Well, one thing that's nice about religions, and I'm speaking very broadly here, of course.
Yes.
And so some of them this isn't true of, and some it's more true of than others, but often they will be very nice to people who just sort of wander into their things and get free food. And this was the case with this event. Now, do not just go to any synagogue you find and say, I'd like free dinner.
No. This was a weekly free dinner that was put on specifically for people at this college.
I'm qualifying this, so this is not a universal statement.
Right.
But this is a memory that we have, yeah. And I didn't remember that they had us wear yarmulkes, but...
It was an option.
Yeah, maybe I just didn't realize I was supposed to at that particular time. For which I apologize if you're listening, people who gave these free dinners. So, apparently I've always heard it called a yarmulke.
That's what I've typically heard it. I've also heard kippah.
I hadn't really heard that until I started looking this up. And apparently yarmulke is spelled Yarmulke.
Yes, I did know that it was a spelling that doesn't necessarily conform to English pronunciation.
Oh, right, yeah.
So
this says yarmulke comes from Yiddish and kippah, which sounds like a variety of fish.
And the name of my beloved sailboat.
Ah, yes, that's right. It comes from Hebrew. And this is, we're getting our information from the Mosaic Law Congregation. Is a small cloth cap worn by Jews. We've established this.
Yes.
Traditionally, it was worn only by men, but in modern times, the push for equality between the sexes and the practice of Judaism has led some women to wear yarmulkes. Some Jews only wear yarmulkes while praying. Others wear yarmulkes the entire day, making sure not to walk more than 4 cubits without head covering, especially outside. The basis for a head covering is a story in the Talmud. Often the color and fabric of the yarmulke can be a sign of adherence to a specific religious movement. The etymology of yarmulke is unclear.
Okay, I'd always wondered.
Yeah.
And I guess we don't know.
Some linguists, including Max Vasmer, maintain that the Yiddish word is derived via Ukrainian or Polish from the Turkic Yarmulke, meaning rainwear. Other linguists, for example Herbert Zayden, regard this hypothesis as untenable, but still believe a Turkic origin is likely, suggesting the first half of the word may come from yarim, a Turkic adjective meaning half. while the second half may come from kap, a Turkish word for cap, shell, enclosure, or container.
Oh, half a hat. Yeah.
Yes. Traditionally, yarmulke is considered to have originated from the Aramaic phrase Yare me Eloka, in awe of the Lord, in keeping with the principle that the yarmulke is supposed to reflect someone's fear of heaven, or perhaps Yira Malka, fear of the king. In Hebrew language, the word kippah means dome.
So more literal.
Yeah.
Yeah. In that it is dome-shaped.
Yeah. I've always been respectful when I've been at events that were suggested and put it on.
Yes.
And usually they only have you put it on if you're not a yarmulke wearer otherwise, when you go into the place where the religious event is occurring.
Right.
And they've had me put it on even when I was already wearing a hat when I went in, which is fine, but I guess it's just more the symbology of it, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that
symbolism of it.
I think that would be why. I don't know, though.
It says here in Wikipedia, according to Rambam, Jewish law dictates that a man is required to cover his head during prayer.
And it's strongly suggested that the head is covered at all times.
This is why you see some people wearing yarmulkes
all the
time. And putting their other hats over the yarmulke.
Right, and other people only wearing them during prayer situations or
which
religious
is why
ceremonies.
They want you to put a yarmulke on when you go into the synagogue or the theater being used as a place for a wedding.
Right.
Even if your head is already covered, it just sort of shows you're doing the thing, I suppose.
Yes.
Yeah. I have a Jewish friend for whom I bought a present of a yarmulke once because they were selling, speaking of the gifts at the baseball team.
Okay.
They were selling Binghamton Mets decorated yarmulkes.
Really?
Yes.
That strikes me as strange.
It did seem strange to me also.
I had never thought of branded yarmulkes.
Neither had I, really. Now, I had seen people wearing designed yarmulkes that clearly looked meant to be in fun colors or things like that.
Right. That's still a little different than your local sports team.
Yes,
Not to seem critical, but
no,
I wonder if this was a marketing blunder on the on the team's.
I don't know.
Behalf there.
They clearly sold at least one.
Well, you bought it.
Yes, I bought it.
And how was it received as a gift? This is interesting to me.
Very well. My friend was very happy.
Okay.
Now, that happiness came in part from amusement at the idea that such a thing exists.
Right.
In fact, I think half that and half getting a gift was the source of happiness.
Yeah. People tend to like gifts, and
Yes.
if that gift is amusing, they tend to like the situation.
Right, yeah.
So.
I don't know if they sold any other
Right.
yarmulkes, but
Well,
they certainly existed. So,
and looking here, there do seem to be there's a whole variety of styles of yarmulkes, but
yeah, and for me, as someone who doesn't receive the religious value of the yarmulke the way that a practitioner of this religion would, oh yeah, here it says in the article, it is considered a sign of respect for anyone in a synagogue to wear a kippah. Yarmulkes are often provided to guests at a bar or bat mitzvah. They are often provided at bereavement events and at Jewish cemeteries. According to the Conservative Committee on Jewish Law and Standards, there is no halakhic reason to require a non-Jew to cover their head, but it is recommended that non-Jews be asked to wear a kippah where ritual or worship is being conducted out of respect for the Jewish congregation and out of respect for the non-Jew. Yeah, so this is basically...
yeah, that
what
makes
we
sense.
Speculated. Yeah. But the other benefit, I think, that a non-Jew can get from the yarmulke is posture.
Posture?
Because I spent a majority of the cocktails before the wedding time attempting to not let the yarmulke fall off of my head.
And was it that difficult?
Yes. In fact, it did fall twice, and I had to catch it.
Now, I'm trying to remember back in college. Do some people use methods to adhere them to their heads like a pin
Yeah,
or
I
a
have
clip?
seen people use hair clips
Okay.
to attach the yarmulke to their hair. Now, I do have some hair, but I may eventually reach a point where that won't help me.
There's less hair in the area where
the yarmulke
would sit.
Yeah,
yes.
so but I think I could cause that to work. Yeah. But and I think also I have a largish head, so I think if one has a very small head, it might. Although you don't have short hair.
I have a small head, but not short hair, so it sits quite.
Oh, it's working very well for you.
I have very dense long hair, and so that seems to be producing enough friction to hold it on my head without much worry.
Yeah.
But it slipped a little. I think a clip would be a handy thing.
Yeah, and me it doesn't
just slides right back. Yeah.
So I think maybe So this was very good for my posture at the wedding. So
no.
it doesn't stay on my head any better than a book.
I was going to say now I'm imagining it as a replacement for young children, where when your mom puts a book on your head and makes you not lean forward or back to encourage posture, but instead you're using a religiously significant item of clothing from
religion.
Yes. No, I would stick with the book.
Yeah.
If you're training your children posture.
Yeah, because then if you slouch and the book falls down, you have something to read.
You know what? You're not wrong.
All right. Well, it's sort of difficult to rate the yarmulke.
I feel uncomfortable relating, or I'm sorry, I feel uncomfortable rating a item of religious significance.
Yeah, I think style will just say not applicable. It's not meant to have a style.
Right, and practicality, yes, it's practical
for the purpose
that it is intended.
So I think we'll just give this binary ratings.
Yeah.
Style not applicable.
Practicality
yes.
Check.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been Hatcast. We're on every time you look for Hatcast in your podcast program.
And we tend to put an episode out every week or so, unless something comes up or I have to work late.
So you can send us a voice message by searching for Hatcast at yandex.com on Skype. You can send us emails at hatcast@yandex.com. And I hope you do. That's HATCAST@yandex.com.
We hope to hear from you, and we hope to actually hear you.
Bye.
Bye.
Put on your yarmulke, here comes Hanukkah. So much Hanukkah to celebrate Hanukkah.